Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Business of Wellness podcast. I'm your host, Dave Guttman. If you find this content useful, please like, subscribe, and share. I'm so excited for my guest today, Jenn Drummond. I've been wanting to get you on the podcast now. I think it's like about 6 months now since Nick and Monty first mentioned you to me. And then I was lucky enough to be able to see you at that wellness conference. But mother of 7, author, speaker, which I saw myself, you were terrific, entrepreneur, and of course, adventurer. Have I left anything out? I know you were in the corporate world before that.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's a great intro. Thank you very much.
Well, obviously, the 7 Summit thing I know is a thing you're really, really famous for. But I'd love to go back a little bit, kind of growing up, what got you into, because, you started a business in more corporate America, started a successful business, I believe, in financial services. Mm-hmm. Did you know what you wanted to do when you were growing up? Were you an athlete? Like, what were the sort of early influences, whether it be, coaches, teachers, your folks, that kind of got you on the path you started on?
Yeah, no, I was definitely always an athlete because if I had sporting events, I didn't have time to do chores. And when I took a season off and my mom all of a sudden said, empty the dishwasher and do this and do this, I'm like, never mind. I'm going to play soccer and do these other things instead. That's a way better way to spend my time. I had fantastic coaches too growing up. I was very blessed with that. They always held the bar for where they saw me going and were very encouraging and inspiring and taught me more than just how to play the game, but the mindset behind it, which I love seeing transfer to my kids too right now, right?
Right.
And then I grew up middle class in Michigan. The people that made money in our town were doctors and lawyers. Right. So I, of course, was going to school to become a doctor when I first went. And my chemistry teacher told me that it maybe wasn't a good fit. Huh. And I just remember being like, double down, F you, it is a good fit. Who do you think you are? And luckily for me, I said, can you believe my chemistry teacher doesn't think maybe medicine's the best field for me? And my business law teacher's like, yeah. He's like, I think you have a really good personality for business. And he goes, I don't think that's a negative. He goes, I'm sure you could be a doctor if you wanted to, but your teacher brought up a good point. You don't like to hang out at the library with all those other people, and those are who you're going to spend 8 years of your life with learning how to become a doctor. And so that just opened the opportunity to look at other options. And I got into finance, thankfully, because I was not good at managing money prior to learning about money. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those fields where, thankfully, I started young because that knowledge you carry with you forever.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you play team sports, individual sports, bit of both?
Yeah, so I did everything. Sailing, tennis, soccer, volleyball, everything. I took soccer the furthest. So I played soccer in college and did all that. Got it.
And did your folks go to college? Did you kind of always know you wanted to do the more traditional education, path?
Back then it wasn't really an option, right?
I know,
For
it's
some
so
reason,
different now.
Yeah, now it's like, hey, what are you interested in? Back then it was like, you went to college. Interesting enough, though, my dad did not graduate from college, and my mom graduated from college when I graduated from high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So she went into interior design and did that while we were in school. And so for me, college was never a option. It was something you were definitely doing. Right. Nowadays, I ask my kids more than once, are you sure you want to go to school? Are we sure we're ready to dump $80,000 into whatever you're thinking of right now?
80,000 if you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
I only have one daughter, so I can't imagine having 7 tuitions to even contemplate. I would be trying to talk them out of it too. But even my one, I genuinely tried to talk her out of it. She was a good student in high school. She went to CU Boulder, and when she was thinking about going to college, I'm like, I put a spreadsheet together, job placement rates and average salaries and things that she should have been thinking about. She's like, how good's their football team and what's their Greek system like? I'm like, I feel like we're not focused on exactly the right things here. And to me, to give an 18-year-old $250,000, which is what you're talking about, all in between,
right.
Everything. I'm like, if she
at a low end,
right?
I'm pretty sure we're going to be 400,000 into the first one launched.
Right. Well, and not only that, I told her, I said, if she'd done what I asked, which was put it in Bitcoin, she'd be sitting on $5 million right now.
Wow.
Now, it still worked out fine for her, but it's and thankfully she didn't like get a degree in like gender studies or something completely useless. But you get a degree in psychology and a minor in business, like everybody else does, and she's not really using her degree for anything. Like it's not useful.
Yes, just bought her time to grow up.
Yeah, well, again, it's like giving an 18-year-old $250,000 or whatever the number is to try to figure out what they want to do with their life doesn't seem like a great, thoughtful investment, and yet society's programmed everyone to do it that way, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But you've got 7 of them, my God.
No, I know. So I'm like, I'm having the conversation heavy.
Well, what's the age range?
So my oldest is 19. He's a freshman in college this year. And then the youngest are twin girls who are 13 and they're in 7th grade.
Got it.
So I'm going to have a lot of tuition stacked on top of each other even.
Yeah. No joke. Well, so you're an athlete growing up, you have a successful business, and then I wasn't exactly sure on the timing. I know you had that car accident. I think you were around 40, if I remember correctly. That kind of pivoted things. But you were already out of the financial services business at that point, right?
Yeah. So here's what happened. So I took a job in financial services and then worked for a company for a little bit. And of course had that idea, like, I'm going to go do this on my own. So broke off on my own and took on all the challenges that entrepreneurship gives you that you don't notice when you work for somebody else.
Right.
Taxes, payroll, HR, everything else. But, throw it in the deep end, you learn how to swim pretty fast. So did that. And then I grew up in a town where the goal was to become a stay-at-home mom. And so for me, when I started having kids, it forced me to start hiring out some of my position because I couldn't be at home with the little guy and still running all this stuff. I could run a couple things both ways, but not everything. And so as I started having more children, I started hiring myself more and more out of the business, which was actually a blessing because it's really hard to get out of a business that is your first baby.
You're right.
Right. And so then when you have this live baby looking at you and you have this other baby that you built, you're like, okay, I got to take care of this little guy. And so that really forced me to exit. And then I had all these little kids in the house in Michigan. And I was just like, I cannot have these winters. We are stuck in this house and we're going crazy and this is bananas. And so I was looking at areas where the lifestyle was more outdoors year round. And I know Park City gets crazy winters, but they're dry, they're sunny, and there's a lot of activity outdoors over here compared to Michigan. So in 2015, did a temporary move just to give it a try in January. And then by February, I was like, we're staying. This is amazing. I didn't even know this world existed. As Park City's like living in an adult playground.
Well, I have been to Salt Lake a couple of times, but the first time I'd ever been to Park City was maybe, 5 months ago, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's so beautiful!" It is really kind of has that sort of God, where's that place in Wyoming now? Jackson Hole. It kind of has that Jackson Hole kind of feel of it a little bit, like an adult playground, like you said. Well, no, temporary move. I feel like temporary move and 7 kids.
I know, like we're just gonna go. We're gonna see if we like the ski season. We're gonna see if we like it when it's like done with skiing and there's enough activities for the summer. And it's just such a great community for activity. Right. We have turf fields. So even in the middle of winter, they're plowing those fields so the kids can have soccer practice because it really doesn't get as cold as you think it would. Right. And so you just had all these options that before were not existent. And I'm an active person. The kids are active. So it was a no-brainer. So, you started to outsource a lot of the work stuff. You were able to pull yourself out of the business. And so then at one point, did you sell the business or? So we had different businesses because when you're working with an accountant, they're like, okay, now spend this piece here and this piece there to shuffle tax liabilities and stuff. Right. So the main business is still up and running, but different portions are not existent anymore. So I moved to Park City, which that physical move really removed me from the business. Right. So if you're struggling to move across the country and you'll learn how to delegate more than you've ever thought about. And I was just back in the motion of being a mom here and actually not loving it as much as I thought I would. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely rewarding, but it just didn't challenge me enough mentally on a regular basis. So I was kind of spinning. And I just remember getting into that car accident in 2018. So I was 38 years old when that happened and waking up and being like, oh my gosh, if my life was over, how many things did I push till later that I didn't even give a chance to see or do or experience, because my story was when my kids launch.
Right.
And everybody listening has that story of when X happens, then Y will happen. Okay, well, that's an excuse, right? Get rid of the X, do the Y now, and figure it out.
Yeah. So, and when I read your backstory about sort of how the idea came up for the 7 summits, but like, I didn't know this till I was reading your book. I didn't realize that the fatality rate of summiting K2 is 23%. I'm like, how do you sell that to your kids? Because I got to tell you, my daughter would have lost her freaking mind if I had told her.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's stats all over about K2, 25%, 23%. It might be down to 13% nowadays. Okay. Still high, right? Still high. I don't think my kids were that aware of the risk involved there. And I do think they were very supportive, and I was always leaving with the mission, I'm coming home alive. So on my climbs, I turned around on 3 mountains and had to go back and do them a second time because the mountain will always be there. And so I always just let things started not feeling right or things didn't line up. When you're in the mountains and you have enough mistakes pile on top of each other, that's deadly. Right? In business, it's deadly, right?
Sure.
It's all of that. So it was easier in a black and white situation to be able to turn around. Doesn't mean I enjoyed it. Doesn't mean I was happy. Doesn't mean I wasn't pouting on my way out. But when you come home and you hug your little ones, you're like, okay, I can go back.
Right. Well, when I saw you speak at that conference, I knew that there was that because I've seen videos, of Everest and stuff like that. Because the only thing I did Kilimanjaro with my mom 15 or 20 years ago, and that's. The peak is the summit is basically base camp of Everest in terms of altitude, and that's rough. It's hard to get a decent night's sleep. We were maybe 500 feet below the summit the night before, and it's hard to sleep when your body's not getting enough oxygen. But I can't even imagine. And so I knew you had to go over those crevasses with the ladders roped together, tied together. But I thought you only had to do it twice, once there and once back. And then when I watched you speak, I'm like, no, you have to do it 10 times because you have to go up to Camp 1 and up to Camp 2 and back and forth. And I was like, you might be able to convince me to do it twice. I don't think you can convince me to do it 10 times.
Well, and that's if there's only one ladder. Right. So here's every year that path is different. So what we're talking about is for going from base camp up the mountain, there's a section called the Khumbu Icefall, and the Khumbu Icefall is where there's a bunch of snow seracs and crevasses and different things, formations, and a lot of times to get through those sections is you cross ladders. So many times there's 4 or 5 ladders. Right? There's not even just one. There's sections of it, and that area shifts 3 to 6 feet a day. So in the beginning of the season, you might have started with 1 ladder. By the end of the season, you might have 5 ladders in that space. And yeah, it's never not scary, but it gets less overwhelming.
Okay. Well, I mean, you're having to climb a lot of ladders a lot of times. But so how is, I know you had the conversation, the guy just threw it out there, and then you decided you were going to do it. I know I think your son basically threw out after the dumb blonde comment, threw out the Everest thing. And so that's why you ended up doing Everest. But help me understand it, because that's not a shift a regular person makes. So, again, the death toll, probability is only 13% or whatever it might be down to. That's still that's just not daunting. I did, triathlon, long distance triathlons and stuff like that. Nothing like what you did. Help me understand that. Were you always that way, or is that a shift that happened where you're like, I have to do something so big that it, was it to try to give your life additional meaning? What was the driver for that?
Right. So when the accident happened and the moment that my car collided with that semi-truck is a moment where time dilated. And in that moment, I just remember negotiating with death, saying, I promise I'll do something significant with my life if you let me live. Right? All of a sudden I'm alive. That comment haunted me. Because I'm like, what's significant? And that's a pretty big promise to make, considering what I'm doing. So for me, that happened. Also, if we go back to when my accident happened, shortly after it, a girlfriend of mine died running on a trail. It was wet out. She slipped, she hit her head, and she never came home. And it was just the collision of those two events so close together that really spun me in this tailspin of like, what is the meaning of life? Why did this happen? Why did we die? What, all those questions that you ask. And for me, I realized I don't get to choose when I die, but I get to choose how I live. And I wasn't really choosing how to live. I was looking at everybody else for external validation, and I wasn't really following my internal compass. So I started making a bucket list, right, of things I wanted to see, do, and experience before I die. And on that list was just climb a mountain.
Right.
Right. And then I was
like a normal person has a bucket list, climb a mountain.
A mountain. And like literally like the one in my town, right? I wasn't being all this aggressive and crazy. And then however it played out is my son challenged me to climb Everest. And we looked at Everest, and I had that like moment of, this is significant. Like, this is what significant is. It's scary. It's outside the realm of comfort. It's safe enough to do because other people have done it. And if I train and work hard, then I can put myself in a position to have success. And like, and what a cool thing to chase after that your kids are watching. Right? They're watching me eat healthy. They're watching me train. They're watching me like being frustrated that it's cold out and I want to go. Like, they have those same kind of struggles, but it shows up in math homework or science homework, or they got cut from a sport team or whatever that is. We started living life much more in parallel, which actually helped our relationships at a whole new level. And for me, when you're going to climb the tallest mountain in the world, that's pretty significant. And so it felt like it checked a couple boxes and gave me permission to lean in.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And how does it, I mean, I'm curious if your relationship, so like when you climbed your first mountain or decided you were going to go for it, because was Everest your first?
Everest was like 4 or
Okay.
5.
So when you decided you were going to take this task on, though, how old was your oldest kid and how young was your youngest kid?
Okay, so I climbed my first mountain really at 40, which is 5 years ago. So Jack would have been about 14.
Okay.
And then the twins would have been about 9.
Okay. Yeah, so 8 to 14, and now they're 13 and 19. So is there like how your relationship was with the kids before all of it, and how it is now? Or is it? Do you think it's materially different, your relationship with them, and in terms of, but obviously age,
Ages change.
Age always changes, so it shifts in that respect too.
Shifts in that respect.
But how they view you, I guess, is more how I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, in good ways and in bad ways, right? Like, so, for example, when a bunch of kids went to Mexico for spring break, and I took my kids to go climb Kilimanjaro, they were like, why can't we have a normal mom that sits on the beach and we get to go to Mexico, right?
Right.
And then, but, a few months later, I overheard them, like, what was your favorite vacation? Kilimanjaro. Right. So yes, I wasn't the favorite in the moment, but later on I came back full circle. So they'll tease me that you don't know what it's like. You don't have a mom like my mom. My mom makes us like work out and lift weights and be healthy and blah, 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 blah. But I think discipline is an important thing to teach, and mountains require it.
Yeah. And so, the other thing I think it requires, and again, I've only done Kilimanjaro, so I haven't done any of the dangerous ones, but it to me, it requires, my sense of it is it requires a lot of planning and preparation. It requires fitness, of course, but it also, like risk management, right, seems like it's a huge component.
Yeah.
And I would think, how did you develop that skill? Did you have good risk management because you were a successful entrepreneur? Like, where do you think that came from? Or did your risk management skills get really good in the process of climbing all those mountains?
So I was in finance.
Right.
So we were always managing the risk of a portfolio. Right. So what kind of risk are we taking? What is that exposing us to? And what's our rate of return? And so for me, because I think I started in finance, everything was like ROI, ROI, ROI. And so when I started training for these mountains, it gave me a position to turn around, because you have to learn how to turn around in a portfolio too. Sure. Say, hey, we picked the wrong stock, or it's time to exit this category, or the conditions changed. And so now we're going to invest in Bitcoin or AI or whatever that is. Same thing happens on the mountain. Storm came in, this happened. So you go in with a plan, you go in with discipline, but you also go in with this awareness of, hey, what happened 2 hours ago is not what's happening now. I need to adjust based on what I'm witnessing at this moment. And so I had a lot of training in that. When I got into the mountains, I really we kind of put together this peak methodology that I talk about with people. And P is for pinpointing your truth. And I'm doing that right now because my boys and I are going to go climb Mount Blanc in April. And so right now we're in the stage of pinpoint your truth. I need to know where you stand right now, so I know how to get you ready to be able to go do this climb. And if you lie about your starting point, I'm never going to be able to get you to the top of that mountain. So you have to be GPS honest about where you are. So in fact, yesterday we went to the gym and we were doing all different types of activities that we would do to get our bodies prepared physically for this climb. And some of us are stronger than other ones, right? And some of us can do this exercise and not that exercise. And just being honest about that and saying, okay, here's your training plan and here's your training plan. Even though we're doing the same thing, it's going to look different. Right. And then, so the next part is E, which is envision your future self. And so when I'm working with the kids, it's very much envision what it looks like to be at the top. Envision what it looks like when it's struggle. What are you going to say to yourself? How are you going to get through this moment? You have to envision the hard times and yourself getting through them. So when they show up, you're ready and you're prepared. So we're very much talking through the different pieces. We're looking at videos online. It's over a 7,000 foot vertical gain in one day.
Wow.
And we have to have enough energy to ski that down. And there's some no-fall zones. Those no-fall zones mean if you fall, you're at risk of death. And so they have to have their ski skills at the peak and all this kind of stuff. So it's been very much an assessment of where we are and what we need to do to make this thing safe. And then the next piece of it is A, for align your environment. So what are we doing in our environment to make sure that we're having success? Okay, we're taking Fridays off of school starting in January, and those days are dedicated to training days with different coaches and different modalities. And that's setting us up for success. Might they have half-day Fridays anyways in Park City? We're taking them and we're going to use them for something different. And then also the environment at home. I have these little step-ups in different parts of the house so that anytime somebody's just standing there like on their phones doing whatever, they can do step-ups because it just makes it easy versus sitting on the sofa.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah, it's just these little things that you can do that trigger you. And we have posters up right now of here's what we're doing, here's what's going on. So your environment's a constant reminder of what's happening. And then K for the peak methodology is keep expanding your limits. So their limits right now might be they can only hang from a bar for a minute. We want them to be able to hang from a bar for 3 minutes. Right? So then when that becomes possible, now we can focus on something else. So we have these little milestones developed so we can keep expanding what's possible for them. I'm not even showing them what their training is going to look like in 3 months from now because it would stall them out and overwhelm them.
Right.
But we have an idea of what it looks like. And right now we're just opening the door enough to keep them motivated, but not like set back.
And how old are the two boys you're doing this with?
So I'm doing it with three.
Three.
At the time that we go, one will be 18, one is 16, and one is 15.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And now they used to be ski racers. So their skiing skills are their strongest piece. So that's why I'm not too worried about the no-fall zones. But I still need to keep them energized enough to have those muscles respond to their brain.
Wow. And so they got you as their coach. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, so, I'm doing the math in my head because I think you said you had to repeat 3 of the peaks.
Yeah.
Plus you did Everest. And I think I said you did 9, not 7, because it wasn't clear about which the tallest one was or something. So now I think I'm up to like 15 or 16, something like that. You had to fund 16 trips.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh my God, like this got to be over $1 million. Like, and if I remember correctly in prepping for this, you didn't have sponsors for most or all of it, I guess, right?
Right. I didn't really take sponsors on in the beginning because I didn't understand that relationship, and my personality is a people pleaser. And so I didn't want to feel obligated to continue to climb a mountain and tell that sponsor like, hey, I decided to turn around and have to justify my experience. I am currently partnered with GoRuck. They're amazing. They would never question my judgment on the mountain. And they're a perfect brand for me to partner with because it's a weighted pack that you can wear everywhere, anytime you're exercising. Well, when I'm on the mountains, I always have a weighted pack. So for me, was just natural alignment for us to work together. But yeah, no, there's been a lot of mountains. So for sponsorships, I mean, maybe you could say I was sponsored because I would do speeches. So I would call companies and say, hey, let me take your flag to the top of the mountain. I'll take a picture. And then when I come back and do a speech for you, it'll be customized to your audience with that flag. The companies love that.
That's a clever idea. Did you come up with that yourself?
Yeah. Well, I've seen other people do it.
That's very clever. And like, if you don't mind me asking, what do you charge a company to do something like that?
I mean, it just depends on how big of a mountain it was or how whatever. But I mean, some people can charge $40,000 to $50,000 per thing. You know, when you're on Everest for a long period of time and the chance of getting to the top and all those different deals. Yeah.
Wow. That's so cool. Well, so now what do you, and obviously you've got the hike with your 3 boys. I should the climb, hike, a little more than a hike. You know, what else are you working on that you're really excited about?
Oh, I have so much. Like 2026, I'm so excited about. And I think that's all of our obligations as individuals. What can you put on your calendar for next year that makes you so excited for next year to come? Right. So I have the climb with my boys, which of course is a highlight of the year. But then I'm also taking a group to Kilimanjaro. So in August, I'm going to take my younger kids, and the idea is to take parents and their teens to Kilimanjaro to do that experience together. And so I'm super excited about that. I took Jack, my oldest, to college this fall, and I cried for days. And so for me, I'm like, what kind of activities can I do that are cool that my kids want to do with me? And make that happen. So we're going to do Kilimanjaro in August. I have a couple retreats in Park City at the end of February, beginning of March for adults to, you know, get away. And I'm going to share my formula and the rhythm for success that I've learned from all of this and hopefully help them navigate theirs. Because secret, it's not just pushing, right? It's learning how to pause at strategic moments so you have energy to push when it's time.
Right. So I have a question that I'm really curious to know your opinion about ego, because both in business and certainly in something as treacherous as the kind of climbing that you've done, I can imagine ego getting you in a whole heap of trouble. And in business too, it's like my whole thing is, if your ego drives you, that's a good thing. But if your ego controls you, and you become emotionally invested in being right, having made the right decision, it makes it really hard to take in new information. In fact, one of the epiphanies I've had really just in the last few years, embarrassingly, that I've made ego, you know, humility, one of the 2 or 3 most important criteria in hiring somebody or having someone work in my organization. I'm curious how you view your own ego, and you know, sort of ego and humility, both in yourself, in your kids, maybe in people in in the companies that you've run, how you view those.
Yeah, no, I think humility is one of the most important qualities or values that a human can carry. For me, when I'm at the mountain, I always remind myself, like, this is Mother Nature's territory. She decides who climbs this mountain or not. I just get to be here, and I need to respect what she delivers every day, all the time. And if she doesn't want us here, she's going to let us know. And so very much having a strong, bold mission of I want to get to the top, but also understanding that I don't get to control the when. And so, like, always just paying attention to that. Like, I will come back. I'm a cockroach like that. You're not going to kill me. I will come back 10 times if I need to, but I only get the opportunity to come back if I listen and watch and obey what Mother Nature throws my way. And when it comes to business, again, it's that I have this idea of where I want to go. When I started my first company, I thought I was going to have this big company with, you know, your sign on the outdoor of the building, and somebody would be watering plants, right? Like, for some reason, those are the visions that I had. I'd have somebody that would come in to water plants. My name would be on the corner of the building, would be this huge building downtown. What actually ended up happening is almost the complete opposite. We started a business, and for some reason, a door opened that allowed me to white label a program for people. So now my name has nothing to do with anything. We're letting them put their name on it, but we're doing all the scaffolding and the structure and the pieces behind the scenes. And then we do a revenue sharing agreement. It couldn't be farther from what I thought it was going to look like, but so successful that there was no way I was letting it look different. So you have to have these ideas of what you want it to be, because that brings you taking steps forward. And then as you take those steps, you might pass a door that's open and you peek in there. And you're like, hey, let's take advantage of this and go.
So another thing I'm curious about, people don't have 7 kids by accident, right? So did you always know? How many siblings did you have growing up?
So I have a brother and a sister.
Okay.
My dad is one of 13, of which 11 survived childhood. And so I grew up in a very big Catholic family. I actually struggled with fertility in the beginning.
Clearly, you got over that.
Yeah, clearly, again, these little things in your life, these little things in your life that teach you that repetition wins. That would be the fertility journey as well.
You're always an overperformer, overachiever.
Yes, yeah. I believe in abundance in all levels, friends. No, so I had embryos, and embryos for me were life. And so you either use them, donate them, or destroy them. And I didn't want to destroy them. I didn't want to donate them and wonder if I had a kid out there. And so I just trusted the process and said, whatever's going to be is going to be. The doctors thought I would have 3, maybe 4 children. That's 7. So thankfully not anymore, but thankful for each one of them that I have.
I have to say, that is the most principled reason for having 7 kids I could even imagine. Wow. I was not expecting that answer.
Yeah, no.
That's so cool.
And anybody who's struggling on that journey, it is the worst thing. Do not add shame and guilt to it like I did, and just understand that the process is your process and keep going on the journey.
I have some close friends that are struggling with it, and it's heartbreaking to see when people really struggle with it.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's so funny because you see people that definitely should not be parents having it so easy, and people that would make such wonderful parents struggling. It just seems so unfair.
It
so
does.
Almost cruel.
I know.
Yeah. Well, so, as it seems like you've managed miraculously to have 7 kids. And again, I only have 1. So I'm trying to imagine time slicing myself 7 times, and I cannot. I have I'm remarried, and my mother-in-law said to me, you're only as happy as your least happy kid. She only has 4.
Yeah.
Right? You've got 7. So again, I got to figure when there's 7, someone's going to be unhappy pretty much all the time.
Right.
But it seems like you found a way to balance having your own identity and also being able to make real investments in their identity. I haven't seen someone do that before. That's very impressive. How have you, was it a thing you did consciously?
Yeah, so I never wanted, I think my twins solidified this the most for me. When I had twins at the bottom and they were girls, I'm like, they share the same birthday. That's it. They're completely different characters with completely different ideas.
And they're identical twins.
No, they're fraternal.
Oh, fraternal, okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
right.
still both girls.
Yeah. Right.
And I just remember thinking, I really wanted to make sure that I treated them as individuals instead of as a pair. And then when I looked at each of my kids, I'm like, I actually felt so honored that they picked me to be their mom. And so my mission was to help them figure out who they were and then hold that space for them to explore that and experience that and develop that thing that's inside of them. And so you set up times every week so that you make sure you're checking in and spending time with each person. And then you almost keep office hours because that at some point in time, somebody's going to need you. You just don't know who.
Right.
And so for me, I think that's actually a benefit of having 7 kids, because when you have 1 kid and you have office hours that aren't used enough, you kind of like, well, maybe we don't need office hours.
Right.
But when you have 7 kids and you have office hours, they're used. Okay. And you just pay attention to little things of, okay, I'm going to take this kid to practice, or I'm going to help this kid with his project, or I'm going to make sure I watch that kid's basketball game. Even if I went to his basketball game yesterday and this means I'm missing another kid's sporting event, I'm going to have a conversation with the other kids. And
Right.
just open communication just gives you so much.
Sure.
The beauty of climbing mountains too is it gave me this deadline of when I was leaving. And so when I had this deadline of when I was leaving, it gave me this hard number to build as much experience before I left. So when I left, all that was carrying through the time that I was gone. Right. So then all of a sudden they started equating with mom's going to go climb a mountain. Where do we get to go before? Right. And so I would always try to do a fun vacation or some fun experiences. And they equated with me going to climb with them getting extra time to do something unique.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. And so what's the longest period that you were gone in all of those various trips?
Yeah. So the longest time frame was about 3.5 weeks.
Okay.
And that's actually very short considering what I was doing.
I'm surprised I thought you were going to say 3.5 months.
Yeah, no. So Everest is a 8-week expedition typically. That was not an option for me. And so having that be a hard no, most people would be like, oh, that's an excuse not to do it. For me, it was, hey, what are my options considering this is a hard no? And I went to a doctor in town. We have altitude doctors in Utah because we have the altitude and we get guests all the time to ski, and they struggle with it sometimes. And this altitude doctor introduced me to a company called Hypoxico. And Hypoxico makes these tents that you put on your bed, and it mimics the lack of oxygen. So when you have to go up and down the mountain to acclimatize, I actually get to do some of that at home. So I can come in and miss some of those rotations because I've been sleeping in a tent for the last X number of months of my life. And my body already is acclimatized to 22,000 feet or something. And so I don't have to get to that
You can
level.
acclimate, you can, to that high, you can do that.
Well,
really?
it depends on where you live.
Okay.
Okay. So since I already live at 7,000, when you put that machine on, it adds to that 7,000.
Oh, I see.
Okay. So like if you were in Florida, you want to be able to get as high because you're starting at sea level. But they do have a special piece to this machine that it's like the Everest piece that gets you the higher altitude. So, and it doesn't work for everybody, to be honest with you. I'm lucky it works for me.
Right.
So.
Yeah, my experience is different, but there's one similarity in that I got divorced from my first marriage when my daughter was only 1. So she doesn't know us, me and her mom together. And, and it was, when you're not there all the time, the thing that's interesting is you don't, it forces you to do everything.
Yeah.
Right. It's like there's no splitting of responsibilities. You're doing everything, and you're trying to cram things in into the shortest amount of time. And you start doing things like I would do things like
Makes you intentional.
Very, very intentional. Even things like I would create rituals. Like, every Sunday morning we're going to make pancakes or whatever. It didn't matter what it was, right? Every year, I think when she was finally 13, she made me stop doing it. But I would create a Tyler calendar. My daughter's name is Tyler. A Tyler calendar every year. And so what I do is, if it was the month of my birthday, it'd be a picture of me and her. If it was my dad's birthday month, it'd be a picture of my dad and her. And I would do that for all the grandparents. And I would send Tyler calendars to everyone in the family, on both sides of the family, even my ex-wife's. And so there were Tyler calendars everywhere, and I still have at least one copy of all those Tyler. I think I did it for like 8 or 9 years.
That's awesome.
But it's like little things like that. That, at the time, I'm sure like with your Kilimanjaro trip, I can't believe, why is our mom not normal? And she's taking us up this mountain. But then like, our mom's cool. She took us to Kilimanjaro.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty funny now that my oldest is in college, and so he's starting to build a reputation, and he'll be like, yeah. And then his roommate knows I climbed Everest, and so when I went to visit him, they're like, yeah, Jack's mom climbed Everest, and all of a sudden Jack's cool, right? And Jack's like, I didn't know this would help me. Okay, this isn't so bad that you did these crazy things.
Yeah, so now you get some cool points for it. Yeah,
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like doing the podcast. It's like I don't think my daughter watches any of them, honestly. It's funny. And my dad either, which is surprising. If my daughter did a podcast, for sure I would watch it.
every episode.
Me too.
100%.
100%. It's funny. Well, so what else you have going on that you're excited about? Are you doing a lot of public speaking?
I am doing a lot of public speaking, and I actually am cutting it off a little bit. I try to do only 2 events a month, but if there's big months, then I'll do like January of this year.
Right.
I think I have 5.
Oh, wow.
Right. And the reason why is because of their locations. And then one of my kids could come with me.
Yeah.
And we get that one-on-one time, and everybody loves hotel time because we get to watch movies and order popcorn and eat chocolate bars at night, whatever that is. Again, rituals, right? But I am taking off April 25th till July 1st. And so that's why I'm cramming stuff in to do 3 more mountains. So we're calling it Project Climb Higher. It's 3 mountains, 1 record, 60 days. So I'll have the record as the first and only woman to climb the first and second highest peak on all of the 7 continents.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've done all the seconds. I've done almost all the firsts. I have 3 mountains left. 2 of them I can take a couple of my kids on, and 1 of them I'm not taking my kids into Russia.
Right.
So I have to go into Russia to climb. I'm just going to do that one without anybody. I don't want problems. But I'm going to do Denali in Alaska, and my son Jacob's going to join, and I'm going to do Mont Blanc in Chamonix. And that covers the 9 potential summits for the 7 summits for the first.
Right. Wow. So this year you'll have done all 7 all top ones and all second ones on all 7 continents.
Yes.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, and the only reason why is because everybody, when I give this speech and I talk about being the first one to do the seconds, everybody's like, well, why didn't you do the first? I'm like, you know what? I'm so sick of that question. I'm going to do the first and show you and know firsthand that the seconds are harder than the first. And so I have 3 left of that. We're going to give it a shot. We're actually going to film it and really just help people see these ordinary things compounded become extraordinary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so what are the, I mean, I can only imagine 7 kids, how different their personalities must be, right? Like so different. Are there, do you think about how you help them develop as people? Do you almost like come up with 7 different game plans?
Oh yeah. You have 7 different parenting styles because you have 7 different children. And it's interesting what motivates one, the other one could give a flying about, right? So you have to understand, okay, that motivates you, this motivates you. With the way that parenting is taught these days, I think we're so lucky compared to how we were raised, right? Yeah. Not that it's good or bad, it's just interesting to see how like evolution goes. But they're very much aware of what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. Not in a shameful way, but just in an awareness way. And how do we play to your strengths and what interests you? And what does it look like when you want to try something new? So, for example, I have a son right now who decided that he wanted to make more money to invest in Bitcoin, and he's 16. And so we were running through a million different ideas of what would be good for his personality and his school load and all these other things. And he came up with starting a ski waxing business. Right. So then we went down to REI and I had to learn how to ski wax, and I smelled like a melted crayon like for a month because he took the courses there. And then we practiced on neighbor's gear and things like that. And, when your kid has an interest, I think as a parent, if you get interested in it too, it helps so much.
Totally.
Right. I mean, the one thing I just haven't been able to figure out is one of my daughters is learning how to be a musher.
What?
Right?
Like mushing like a dog sled?
Yeah, like dog sled. And I will vomit when she gets in the car after being with wet dogs for like 4 hours outside training. So I just tell her, I'm like, honey, you can tell me all about it when you get home. Somebody else is picking you up because I can't handle the smell. But it's really just letting them figure out what they're interested in, trying to support them the best you can, and let it unfold.
So, there probably are, I mean, I don't know if you know the statistic, but the percentage of people, let's just say women, since you are one, obviously, that have 7 or more children must be less than 1%.
It has to be.
Right? Uh-huh. And so, like, have you ever thought about writing a book on parenting?
I know, shouldn't I?
No, like, seriously, like, because, like, most people don't have 7 reps, like,
right,
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And not only that, but, like, I mean, I would argue that you run businesses yourself, so you know this, it's like, every person should be led and managed differently.
Yes.
As 7 children have 7 different personalities. You have 40 people, 40 different personalities, 40 different motivations. Everything's different. I'm just curious if that's anything you ever thought about.
Someone suggested that to me before. So if someone suggests it again, then I have to really look at it, because when something comes up in 3s in my life, that's when I start really getting serious. But there's a little bit of fear about writing a book on parenting because I don't have it figured out. I'm still like in it and struggling and hoping I'm doing the right thing. And then to put yourself as, here's what worked for me, and open yourself to all that judgment. There's a lot of judgment on that.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, in this
on
day and age,
there's a lot of judgment.
I was going to say, in this day and age, literally you could cure cancer, and people be criticizing how you cured cancer.
Yes.
You didn't do it sooner. What I would say though is, I would argue that the fact that, being a good parent and being open to the fact that you don't have it all figured out is part of what makes you a good parent.
No, it does. It does. I mean, I'll never forget one of my sons was leaning towards the perfectionist style, which is something I have a tendency to lean towards too. And so I had a therapist working with us, and just because I've never been a parent before, so I had a therapist that was a parenting coach that would help me analyze, how am I doing this? Give me a 360-degree view of things I'm not seeing. And so she's like, maybe you're coming across as perfect all the time. And so then for a couple weeks, I purposely made mistakes, right? Where I was wearing slippers when we went to the grocery store because I forgot to put my tennis shoes on. And my kid would look at me like, Mom, we can't go in. You have slippers on. I'm like, I'm silly. I know, but we're going to get it done and it's fine. And that child went into the therapist 1 or 2 weeks later, something like that, and brought it up, and then they could have a conversation where it wasn't him worried about his perfection. It was him noticing somebody else not having perfection. And she asked him, do you still love your mom the same? Do you still have these things? And so, yeah, I think being a parent, you're a perpetual pincushion and a science experiment on what's going on.
I think they say First, your kids idolize you, then they demonize you, and eventually they humanize you, right?
Yes.
I'm somewhere in between the demonizing and humanize with my daughter at the moment.
Yes.
And it is, yeah. And it's funny because she has done the same thing to me. If I'm being honest, I did to my dad, which was anything short of perfection was failure.
Yes.
And that's not fair.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's a rite of passage. That's just something we all go through.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
100%. Well, so do you usually think beyond the next year? Like, so I know it sounds like you've got a lot of 2026 already in the books, planned for what you're going to do. Do you generally think past that, or do you try to chunk things in, 1 year sets of sort of goals and systems?
A little bit. So for me right now, I'm aware of next year I'll have 2 in college. Then the next year I'll have 3 in college. And then next year I'll have 4 in college. And what that changes is like who's home for spring break and who do you get to build these memories with? And how do you make time for everybody to get together? So for example, I know in May of 2027, we are going to do a ski trip live on a sailboat and ski up Norway mountains, right? And it's you have to bring a gun because you have to watch out for polar bears. Okay. Like this is extreme.
Right.
And so, because all of my kids can ski at a very aggressive level, I'm like the worst skier of all of us. I'm already planning on, okay, if we do that next year, this is who misses what grades or what classes, and is that important or not important, and how do I make that happen? Because in reality, if Jack takes the traditional standpoint of, hey, I have 4 years of college and then I have a real job, that shifts everything forever. And so right now I'm really looking at that 4-year mark and how do I back in as many experiences together as a family, because we're not going to get those back.
Right. Well, let's pivot to education a little bit, because it's something. So I went to Wharton from business school, and I actually tore my Wharton diploma up live on a podcast about 8 weeks ago, because I think I personally think educate. If you want to be an engineer and build bridges, sure, right. But for the most part, college is not a good ROI. It really isn't. It's not a great way to learn. I mean, it's a 200-year-old method of learning. It hasn't really changed much. And so I'm curious, did you homeschool your kids at all, or did they, go through? I mean, obviously they played sports, so I would imagine they at least had to go to school for sports and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I did a mix, right? So we homeschooled definitely when they were younger, and that was out of pain. I didn't have time to have this baby and be in the car all day long running everybody to school. And
I can't even imagine you're having to go to grammar school, middle school, and high school all at the same time.
I'm like, this is like my life is in the car, and that's not the life that I want to create. So then they had a very special homeschool experience where I hired private teachers, and we got to do really cool things and whatever else like that I know is not accessible to everybody. So I'm very grateful for public school and what they offer. Then there was a period of time where they wanted the socialization of other kids, and they didn't want to be homeschooled. And then COVID happened. And so then we homeschooled again. And, right now, some of them take summer school classes so they can have a lighter load during the school year, so that we can take off Friday and they're only missing a study hall course that we piled on there. And so it's been very much, what do we want to do? And then how does school support that? And we're lucky to be in that position where we have that flexibility to pick.
And I mean, do you think about, because again, like, we're about 15 years apart in age, but it wasn't so different, even at your time, where, you had to go to a library to check out a book.
Right.
That there were no book reviews. You don't even know if the book's any good. And by the way, it got checked out, so maybe come back next week and maybe it'll be there. So, accumulating knowledge was very difficult.
Yeah.
Right. Nowadays, you can go on YouTube and you can listen to the world's most renowned expert on any topic in the world in any language that was recorded yesterday. And so a little more of a curation issue maybe, but ultimately it's available to anybody and it's available for free. How have you sort of tried to, sort of guide your kids and say, hey, maybe college isn't the right, it sounds like you're having some of those conversations, or maybe you're not pushing that hard, or you are, but like how strongly do you feel that maybe college isn't the right path for at least some of your kids?
Yeah. Some of them, I wish that they would think of other options. I am big on experience, and I think experience and networking and communicating and having that humanness about yourself. I mean, you can have the best ideas in the world, but if you don't know how to execute them or fail in front of other people or share them when they're not fully developed, you're not going to get anywhere. And so I also let them lead because it's their life. So I can say strongly, hey, I'm going to give you this money and you should go join the Peace Corps for the next year and just tour the world while you figure things out. I also am like, if you want to go to school, that's your choice. And so I'm trying to educate them on other options and different ways to go and different things to do. You do that by bringing them to speaking engagements. I do that by, like, I went to Pace Morby, is a good friend of mine, and he hosted this big real estate conference in Dallas. I took one of my kids to that conference so they could interview and meet other people that took a non-traditional job and built their own net worth and way of doing life this way. So for me, it's very much, what can I expose them to? And then allow them to figure out what interests them and take it from there.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Well, so, Jenn, I'm really excited that we finally got a chance to do this. My brother's gonna be so excited to see this episode. I think my wife will be too. Where do people find you and all the cool shit you're up to?
Yeah. So my website is jenndrummond.com. So JENNDRUMMOND. I'll have all my social links and everything else like that. A fun video that I share is a video of the Milky Way galaxy going over Everest Base Camp.
I downloaded it. It was awesome.
It's awesome, right? So if you're listening today and you just want to look at something that gives you a little bit of perspective shift, text the word Everest to the number 33777. You'll get it on your phone. And it's just fun to, when life gets hard or overwhelming, say, wait a minute, there's another view I can take. So thank you for having me today.
No, really, it's been a real pleasure. And I'm going to look for that children's book at some point.
Perfect. I like it. Thank you.
Thank you.